Hey guys, Jay-Sensei here again. This is going to be what if Shinra was Mifune from Soul Eater. No, this is just because Season 3 of Fire Force came back. I'm rereading Soul Eater. It's on and off with me because I wasn't a big Soul Eater fan, so I'm kind of forcing myself to read this just because I finished Fire Force. Fire Force is the prequel to Soul Eater. Yeah. Well, if that's a spoiler for you, I honestly might just think you're dumb. But yeah, alright, let's begin. Alright. Finishing in the background, that is my fan. It's very hot. Arizona heat in the middle of the night. My house is like 80 degrees, so I'm trying not to sweat to death. And that might get louder because I'm getting a bigger fan. And I'm not uploading just because I'm looking for real jobs because YouTube won't monetize me. So if you want to support me and my addiction to Dr. Pepper and Reese's, tell me if you want to give me money, I'll send you my Cash App. But now let's begin seriously. The story begins in the year 186, because Fire Force has a whole different calendar system after a great cataclysm. We see a 5-year-old Shinra Kusakabe who lives with his loving mother and his brother Sho. His mother, I believe, is named Mari or Mary Kusakabe. Mari, pretty sure it's Mari, M-A-R-I. And Shinra is captivated by heroism and stories of noble warriors and justice. He often just a superhero mimicking their actions and everything that he admired. Now, he vows to protect his family. His mother would indulge his dreams, but keep him grounded. One evening, though, as he ignored his chores while they were finishing a book, she reminded him of the legend of disobedient children that would get snatched up and sent away to the other world. Although skeptical, Shinra still cleaned up, not wanting to tempt being dragged to the nether. I'm going to call it the netherworld. I think underworld? Yep, it's just the nether. Now, despite his playful nature, Shinra already displayed protectiveness over his brother. As one day, a gust of wind knocked over a stack of newspapers in their home and covered Joe's face. And Shinra would rush in and remove the paper and just say, "Don't cry, Big Brother will always protect you." But he couldn't keep that promise, as one day their house had caught fire. Shinra awoke to the flames consuming everything around him, and amidst the inferno, he saw a towering demonic figure in the fire, and he believed this creature had attacked his family. When in reality, that's his mother. She had gone infernal. She tried to warn him, calling out for him to run, but confusion and terror paralyzed him. The overwhelming energy from Joe's Adola burst triggered Shinra's own third-generation ignition ability, aka making him a pillar. And the ignition ability propelled him backward into a wall, knocking him unconscious, just like that. When he awoke, it was all over. Leonard Burns of the Federal Fire Force Company 1 had saved him, but his home, his mother, and his brother were all gone. Mary was declared dead, and since there's no trace of Sho, not even bones, they determined he was reduced to ash in the fire. The trauma that night permanently altered Shinra's demeanor, and that gave him his usual nervous smile. And his family branded him a devil, and soon so did the world. Now, Shinra is sent to Hajime Industries, where they experiment on him and give him liquid nitrogen boots to contain his Adola Burst ignition ability. Now, soon at Hajime, while he was training one day, they couldn't determine if he had an Adola Burst, but instead he awakened something completely different, a new ignition ability. And this was beyond just normal flight. No, he had the ability to manifest endless swords made of flames. But each sword had a small label to it that seemingly meant something. As one sword was labeled Iaido, one sword was labeled fencing, one sword was labeled explosions. They didn't know what they meant, but they couldn't grab them. They had to call in a second generation of pyrokinetic to be able to actually grab the blade, and even then, they couldn't tell if the labels meant anything or if they were just fancy names on fancy swords. Swords were all just various looks. Through training, they realized that Shinra could just create infinite katanas, or infinite broadswords, or infinite axes, It was just Infinite Blade Conjuration, which is what they named it. Infinite Blade Conjuration. That is Shinra's his second, third generation ignition ability. This one is not an Idol Burst, but it is just an ignition ability. And they consider him Holy Soul's version of Benimaru Shinmon, their own compound fire soldier. Now, the Holy Soul Temple took notice of this and they decided to recruit him, bringing him into the secretive faction, the Holy Soul's Shadow. The Holy Soul Shadow will be in Shinra when he was 10. He's brought into the underground complex, where he was inducted into the Shadows. And according to this an order of assassins tasked with eliminating enemies of the Church, Vegetable Infernals, or just doing the bidding of the Holy Soul in general. And it operated secretly. Training was brutal. Shadows emphasized teamwork and swift and lethal combat, efficiency over individuality, ensuring every member were fought with a single coordinated purpose. The belief system was absolute. Human life held no value outside of the collective. Enemies were ignored, emotions were suppressed, and anything else did not matter. It was a fight for survival. And their Harlequin uniforms weren't great either, as that was just proof of them erasing who you were. Your looks didn't matter, you had to match. The man who oversaw Shinra training was the captain of the Shadows, middle-aged zealot with a scarred body, light eyes, and an eerie expression. These are third generation specialized in combat, using his flames to manipulate air currents, mislead opponents, all that. He was one preaching the ideology to the group that they all mattered more than, their individuality. But he was a hypocrite, thinking that he mattered most above all. He derived sadistic pleasure from breaking his subordinates, inflicting pain under the guise of purification. And he routinely brutalized Shinra, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and in many other ways. And he would constantly tell Shinra, "You are nothing, a tool, a blade. You only exist to cut down what the Holy Soul wants you to cut. Your will is worthless and you belong to me in this temple." But it never worked. Now, Shinra still resisted. No matter how long he was beaten, no matter how many nights he spent in agony, the ember of his childhood dream remained. He would become a hero. But soon, that morphed. He no longer wanted to be a hero, but instead, he wanted to be a samurai. I was wondering where this changed. It was because he had access to a library, one of prior history, of Japanese history. Now, it was somewhat glorified in the books, but what Shinra saw were samurai who were noble warriors, and Shinra wanted to be that. To him, a hero would have rescued him already. And he couldn't rescue anyone right now, but a noble warrior, that was the best he could be, and that's what he's going to be. So samurai is what he wanted. A noble samurai is what Shinra was. Now, for 6 years, he endured. He mastered swordsmanship, silent movement, and lethal precision. He would go to hesitation, because hesitation meant he would die himself. Despite his skill, he was regarded as an inferior tool by the captain, delegated or who delighted in pushing Shinra past his limits. At 16, though, everything would change. The mission to eliminate a special infernal, not anything like, according to the story, it's just like, it's a stronger than usual infernal. They were delegated to attack it, but Shinra decided to turn on them mid-fight. And he immediately would grab one of his nearby the allies, and quickly would just snap their neck without anyone realizing it. And he would rush forward, and attack the infernal, and he would shove his sword in the infernal's core, and he would trigger an explosion. In the explosion, he would use his double footprint to cause a blast of flames from his feet, sending everyone flying. Then with this, he would rush at his team, using his own sword, cutting their heads off quickly. And his captain, who was exhausted from taking the brunt of the infernal's attacks, and then was also point-blank hit by Shinra's explosion on his feet, he was dazed. Shinra created tons of swords in the alleyway, and even a few on the captain, which didn't hurt him as the flames, or the swords, Think of whatever they're summoned on as the hilt. If they're not on a table, they're not going to the table. No, the hilt is just on the table. Or the handle's just on the table. Then he pulls it out, and then the blade extends. So if the blades are on, they're not going through. You just have to pull them to extend them. Then Shinra, as one of his captains, would rush right at him, and the captain would try to hit Shinra. He would vault over him, though, pulling the sword out of his back, and then try to cut his captain in half. And the blade was labeled Explosion. And he slashed the captain, and explosion rang out. And it severed his captain's body mostly in half. And Shinra with that ran, not bothering to check if his captain was alive or if he was dead. He just wanted to leave. Now, after escaping, he would live quietly, avoiding attention, and he kept his abilities secret, and he survived on doing small jobs. Eventually, he made his way to the jurisdiction of Company 4, and he joined the Special Fire Force Academy, going to society once more. And this was their final year, but he was able to enroll in time, do enough tests and pass, all that. Alright. But Shinra would keep his abilities hidden still, or at least one of them. And what he mainly did was he did not use infinite sword armor conjuration, or infinite blade conjuration. He would mainly use his double sword runs. In the academy, he would meet Ogun Montgomery, Arthur Boyle, and Karin Sasaki, which I'm pretty sure is his full name. I have the wiki open. Yeah, Karin Sasaki. Now, they were Shinra's, two of them were Shinra's genuine friends. Karin still called Shinra a devil, and that usually got him beaten into the ground daily if he said it. Now, but Shinra would consider Ogun and Arthur his genuine friends. But Arthur was an idiot, in contrast to Ogun. Still an idiot, but an idiot nonetheless. And their one-sided rivalry pushed Shinra to sharpen his abilities even further. Because Shinra, despite not really considering Arthur his rival, would still train because Arthur worked his ass off to try to surpass Shinra. Shinra using a normal katana, not an actual, flaming one. Now, pause. As Shinra stayed in the academy, he just started thinking, could he become a hero? Should he abandon the dream of being a samurai? But then he would just think about it and decide heroism doesn't exist. Heroism doesn't exist. If it did, he would have been saved years ago. The best he can do is try to be an honorable warrior, something that people around him never were. So Shinra's dream is not to be a hero, it's to be a samurai, and the most noble of warriors. And, hold up. And in this one, Shinra, since he is the Mifune, and Mifune exists hundreds of years into the future, maybe thousands, this basically makes Shinra the beginner Mifune bloodline. Shinra is also the originator of the path of the warrior in this universe. That is what Shinra originates. Now, the path of a warrior is basically, phrase it. Shinra strives to fight from the earnest of will and righteousness, where selfish and dark emotions such as greed, power, and fear. It requires dedication, persistence, and a lot of self-awareness. And Shinra, as the originator of this path, Shinra is basically the one who originates this. So that's what Shinra wants to do. He wants to follow the path of the warrior. He just tried to instill this into Arthur, but it does not work out that well. But even then, Shinra is still, let me phrase this. He is still good friend to Arthur. Now, during Shinra's time at the academy and training in secret, he would eventually invent the infinite one-sword style. As in private, he still trains with his infinite blade conjuration, as he already knows you can't let your techniques dwindle. And he was already told how special he was by the Holy Soul Temple, but then the captain tried to make sure he doesn't think he is. Shinra still thought he was because he has 2 ignition abilities. But yeah. Eventually, Ogun and Arthur do find out about these, but they don't really care too much. But yeah. Now I'm going to go over how Shinra would use his Infinite Blade Conjuration and Infinite One-Sword style. His resources were not weapons. They were extensions of his will, and they were tools that could be used in any way. Projectile assault, where you can summon them in the air and fling them at you as they rotate, kind of like Shuriken or Kunai, which he actually can just create Shuriken and Kunai. Not Shuriken, but he can create Kunai. Or he can just create paths, where he can just create floating swords and then run across them as if they're platforms. Or he can just create long swords in the ground around you, where he just creates them at a longer length and they hold you in place if they're around you. Or he can just simply unleash multiple attacks at once, which is just insane. And Shinra would actually have the Hasho no Kame, which is just, don't know what that is. It's, yeah, I'll see if I can explain it right. I don't think I can. Well, hold up. Okay, it's an offensive move that is basically allows Shinra to respond in any situation. And Shinra would basically, it's pretty sure it's a kendo thing, but yeah, Shinra would basically invent this in this world simply because kendo does not exist. In Natsuku said they use Iaido, not kendo. So yeah, Natsuku's thing is Iaido, Shinra's thing is kendo. Now, Shinra, he doesn't really know any actual martial arts. He just invents them. Not invents them, but just uses them. Now, one day while Shinra was in the academy, kind of just basically about to graduate, he would be in his room, and he would notice a phone in his bed. As he has his own phone, but it's a flip phone. He doesn't really have enough money for a normal phone. He looks at this phone and finds it's password protected. He's in his room before looking in a deep corner at the ceiling, finding a sticky note that just reads Joker. He types Joker into the phone, and lo and behold, that's the password. And then with this, or not people, but at least 2 people, would be on the phone as not people, but names. They would be J and then Mad S. And the messages were vague, but definitely deliberate. As it says, "We're outcasts wishing to uncover the truth of the world. One of us was a runaway shadow too. We know what you went through. You've seen things others haven't you? You felt it. The temple will never stop watching you, but neither will we. We will watch you until we can uncover the truth of the world, and you will help us." Message which was cryptic, but Shinra understood it. And Shinra knew what they wanted him to know was that he was not alone in this world in terms of what he had gone through. Not for comfort, but just because he knows he is not that special. In terms of just life and abilities, he is, but his life is not that special. But he didn't feel anything other than pure curiosity. Wasn't angry, wasn't scared, wasn't stunned. He was curious. As graduation approached, Shinra would make one final adjustment to his fighting style. While Gunswords were his main weapons, and he did use a regular katana, he eventually had broke it. So, when he had broken it, it was, how do I phrase this? It was like something part of him broke, as he had grown used to it. He's grown used to using it. And that's how he also been training Arthur, was this one katana. What was left by Shinra as not being alone is Company 4, Captain Han and Honko Pat, would actually get Shinra a new katana. One that's meant to be resilient. It's a blackish sword, but this blade is fireproof and made of the same material as a firefighting axe. This is Shinra's first sword, or first weapon, given to him by the Special Fire Force. And this weapon is something that makes him feel a part of it now. And Arthur even thought it was pretty cool, and Ogun was real that he was the one who told Tonkopad and Shinra needed a new sword. So with this ends this part here. If you guys enjoyed, like and subscribe for more. Adios.